Introducing the Open Palm Podcast, hosted by Jerome Shaw. Available today on your favorite podcasting platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor.fm, and many more. The Open Palm Podcast, where the host engages his listeners with inspirational messages, motivating themes, and thought-provoking ideas. Topics include: make more mistakes, how much is your value, don't get right, get going, learning to let go, excellence is a habit, and more. Binge listen today. Subscribe today. It's getting excellent ratings. That's the Open Palm Podcast, hosted by Jerome Shaw. You can also find it on YouTube. Make sure you share it with your social networks and connect on Twitter and Instagram at Jerome Shaw. That's the Open Palm Podcast with Jerome Shaw. Available today on your favorite podcasting platforms. Go listen, download, and subscribe now.
So just the other day, I found myself outside of a Walmart supercenter, and I was walking along the side of the building, just going to the other side of the building, and I noticed a car parked outside, and two people were putting groceries into their van. So as I walked by, I noticed that as they were finishing up putting their groceries, the cart was now empty, and they were one of the people. It was an older gentleman. He was pretty up there in age, and he was pushing the cart very, very slowly off to the side, like he wanted to go push it back inside, but he knew that it would be a little bit too much for him to go all the way back in. So I wanted to offer to help him. And so I walked forward, and I just gestured to the cart, and I said, "Can I push this inside for you?" And he turned to me, this gentleman, and as soon as he turned to me, I noticed that he also had one of those nose breathers, those nose hose, a hose inside of his nose that was helping him. And so I knew that he wasn't in the best condition health-wise. And so immediately after I asked him, "Can I push that in for you?" he held out his hand and he said, "You got it. That'll be $5." Oh man, I can't make this up. He said, "You got it. That'll be $5. And I just thought to myself, in the moment, we both looked at each other, and it was like just a moment where we didn't say anything. And to break the awkward silence, he said, "Oh, I'm just kidding," and, patted me on the back, right? Let me take his card inside. But it was just very interesting. He chuckled and laughed it off as a joke. But was it really a joke? Right? Think about this for a second. Let's dissect this. Because I've definitely been on both ends of the spectrum. I have been a giver, and I have been a taker. I have allowed myself to receive, and I have also taken things that were not given to me. So, knowing what it feels like to take, which was not a good feeling for me growing up, and also knowing what it feels like to give, especially giving, asking nothing in return, right? What a difference that makes. And so, in the act, it would have been something different if there had been a pause in between the interaction. But it was as though his mind had the response planned, as though it was archived, ready for a situation where he could ask. And I remember seeing his hand out physically as he asked me for the $5, asking me to pay him to push his cart inside. So in that, he's taking twice. Once by me pushing his cart inside, and twice by asking me for $5. And it didn't even sound like a question. It sounded as though this was the price of admission. He said, "You got it, that'll be $5. As though that was the price to be able to push his cart inside of the store. So even though it was a joke, he tossed it aside, brushed it off like it was harmless. Is that thought process really harmless? When our minds are wired for taking instead of what we can give. I know that neither one of us knew each other from Adam. We didn't know each other. This was our first encounter ever. And he didn't owe me anything. He didn't owe me a thank you. He didn't owe me a nod. I offered to take his cart in, and that was it. But instead of saying thank you, instead of simply receiving the gesture, he proposed that I pay him in addition. So this really got me thinking on giving versus taking. Have you felt like this, my friend? Have you been in the giving chair? Have you been in the taking chair? We often can say it's like a dance, right? It's like a dance, a give and take. Someone's got to give, the other's got to take, and then they swap roles, right? But one can't do all the giving, right? Or the other can't do all the taking. It has to be some sort of a two-step, right? A back and forth. So, just something to think about. Where in your life, in what instance, have you been a giver? And in what instances have you been a taker? And in both instances, evaluate how you felt. How did it make you feel to be on both sides? Thank you for listening, my friend. This has been Jerome Shaw on TOP, that is the Open Palm Podcast, here in San Antonio, Texas. The open palm means harmony with the world, understanding our place in the world, using our skills accordingly, greeting the world with an open palm instead of a closed fist. I do pray that you received a special message from this episode, allowing you to just think of what it means to be giving and what it means to be taking. I'm still learning this lesson today. People have asked how they can support. The best way is to become a supporter, opening your browser to anchor.fm/jshaw, and supporting it there is much appreciated. There's also a Facebook group linked to this podcast now, and it is on Facebook. You will find the link in the description of this episode in the show notes. We would love to have you. It is called Marketing Motivation, where we motivate each other each day to continue to rise in our beliefs and our business. Be well, my friend. Be blessed. Have an awesome, wonderful, prosperous, and productive day. Hey there, my friend. So you've heard about Anchor, but do you know why it's the easiest way to make a podcast? Well, first off, it's free. It allows you to use creation tools that let you record your podcast right from your phone or computer. It also distributes your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more platforms. You can even make money from your podcast with minimum listenership. It's everything you need in one place. Download the free Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started. Can't wait to hear yours. Let's see what you have to offer the world.